And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel. Today we're taking a look at a game called Dual Powers Revolution 1917, which is about the Soviets versus the current party in power in the revolution in which communism took over Russia. This is a game from Thunderworks, who has made Role Player, which is about making up a role-playing character. This is a completely different thing. In fact, it's weird to me that Thunderworks games make this very historically based game. Don't get me wrong, I think historically based games are great, and this is pretty cool. This one's very strong historical, but don't run the other direction. I know some of you are like, I'm out, war game. It's not really a war game. I guess it is a war game, but it's an incredibly light area control game. Anybody can play this. You don't have to get into the history to enjoy this game, but it might help. But none of that matters if the game isn't good. Let's take a look. Each player sits on one side of the board. You get a bunch of common units of your color, which are 1s, 2s, and 3s, like this. And then you get 3 leaders. The players will get 3 cards that match their leaders. They also get a card that shows what you're supposed to do. Then there is a central deck of cards, and you will draw 5 cards at the beginning of each round, bringing your hand to 8. So what you're going to do is the players are going to be taking turns back and forth. The board starts with some units on it, and these neutral units here are going to be controlled by one player. So this token here is in the middle. It basically shows the control that each player has, and this is the will of the people, and so the neutral units are with whoever has that. At the beginning of the game, the Soviets have that. Every time the month changes time-wise, this will go back and forth, and if either player plays one of their leader cards, one specific leader card that you have will allow you to take control of the people. So you got to know the right time to play that. So the first thing players are going to do is they're going to be looking at the board, and there's going to be something that players are fighting over each turn. That's the unrest, whatever token's there. So in this instance, it's the green spot here. But there's also 2 other areas that they may want to control, and they're going to pick these areas from their hand. Whatever color they pick, they're going to put on our side. That's a secret objective that both players are trying to get towards. And if the players will control that area, they're going to move the piece in the middle this many spaces towards their side. So a player will win through one of 2 ways. If this piece here gets all the way over to their side, they automatically win. Or when time runs out and it gets to the last month in October, November, then whoever side it is on, they're the winner. So each round of the game is 4 cards. Each player is going to pick a card from their hand. They can play one of their normal cards, or they can play one of their leaders, although each leader is a one-time use. All cards are a one-time use, but you'll get more of these. You can only use each leader once. When you play a card, you are going to do one of 2 things on the card. You are either going to bring out a new unit in that color territory, or you're going to use this part down here. So I can bring out a 1 unit in the purple territory, or I can move a unit on the board 2 spaces. Here I can bring out a 2 unit in the red, or move a unit 1 space. The leaders let you put that specific leader on the board in any of the areas, and then they each get a power, giving you the will of the people, looking at your opponent's secret objective, or moving the blockade. A blockade starts on the board, blocking movement, and so you can move where that blockade will go. So players are going to take turns going back and forth. When players are finished with that, you're then going to look at the spot where the unrest is. You're going to put this number 1 here, and whoever has the higher total is going to win that spot, and they're going to get a certain number of points depending on what month it is, and they're going to, or they can take one of these bonuses here, putting out somebody, moving somebody, flipping somebody from their weary side to the rested side, or drawing an extra card, and then you'll have an extra card for the rest of the game. So then players are going to be looking at the 2 secret objective areas depending on what cards were put there. The winners and the losers, one person's going to win, and they're going to be moving this piece between those. But in each spot, everybody involved in it's going to flip their tokens over. Now this can change how powerful the token is. It actually shows you on a token side what the other side says, and you can see, like in this case, this one guy here, when you turn him over, he goes from a 2 to a -1. But there are cards in the deck that will allow you to refresh these guys. If you have to flip them over and they've already been flipped over, they're gone. And they're gone for good. That's pretty much the game. The only other thing I want to mention here is the calendar. So when a player plays a card, it doesn't matter if it's a leader or a regular card, you're going to move the calendar spaces equal forward to whatever numbers here in the top. And these numbers are all over the place. The leader numbers are especially big. When that happens, you'll move this day thing marker that far. If it lands on 29 or 30, it automatically goes to 31. If you make it go to a new month, we move the month token here. Once the month gets to May or June, Trotsky comes on board as a neutral character. And once it gets to August, if Trotsky's still alive, he turns into a Soviet character. But if you land exactly on action, or 29:30, which move you to action here, you get a free bonus action. And then if you pass the 31st and move to the next month, you also get the Will of the People token. So moving the month can be very important. Getting a bonus action can be extremely critical, and getting the Will of the People can change the neutral units on the board, although as the game goes by, having the Will of the People gets less important because there will probably be less neutral units out there. Anyway, that's how you play. The deck of cards is really well done. It's very, they have some quotes here to add theme that almost nobody will read, but it's there. And you just look at the color, and I might have differentiated between the provinces. The purples don't match exactly, but it doesn't matter because there's a symbol, and you can just look for the symbol of what color it is. The days, I never had to look up what these cards do. It's simple. Move 1, move 2, or flip a card over. And then put out a 1, 2, or 3 level character. Very, very simple. That's not complicated at all. Your 3 leaders have different powers, but again, once you go through them, they're not hard at all. The artwork and everything is very well done. The numbers are easy. The board looks good. The calendar markers. It's an overall quality production. The game also comes with a whole pile of tiles that you can use if you want to play a solo version of the game. The rule book is really clear, didn't have any problems with it. So just overall, very good production. So the way this game works is it is essentially a very, very, very light version of Twilight Struggle. Games like that. It's a big game of tug of war. That's that whole piece at the bottom, and you're trying to move it to your side. So how do you get to that point? Well, through area control, fighting over the areas. You know one area you're both fighting over. You know another area because it's your secret objective. And having control of the will of the people is really important. So you're playing this almost chicken game as you get to the calendar. Like you want to play a card that lands you exactly on those bonuses. That's great. But that first bonus is kind of, how far do I move close to it? I hope my opponent doesn't have a 7 because then he'll land on it exactly. So I'm going to move as close to it. Once we get to that bonus, how close do I want to move to the end of the month? I wouldn't mind getting the end of the month bonus, but if I give the will of the people to my opponent, they're probably going to win 1, 2, or 3 of the objectives at the end of a round. And speaking from personal experience, if you let your opponent win all 3 of them on the first turn, it's pretty hard to come back from. But I don't mind this. The game is fairly short, and it feels like it gives you a lot of really good options. You can play the cards. There's definitely luck in the cards that you get sometimes, but it's trying to outthink your opponent. They're putting some big forces in this area. That must be where their secret objective is, but maybe that's what they want you to think. I don't think this game is super deep. Right, I think this can be taught to almost anybody, and I don't think like a 30th play of it's going to be showing you things you don't see on the first 4 or 5. But I'm okay with that. Not everything has to be overly deep. Historically, some people might not be keen on playing either side. I'm not sure either side was smelled like roses when it came to what they did in life, and you are playing with Stalin in this game as one of your quote-unquote heroes, I guess, as it goes through. But A, you can completely ignore the historical part of it if you want, or B, you can actually get into it and read about the different characters and learn more about history. And if you take a bit of a apolitical look at it, it's just an interesting back and forth as you try to control it. I think it's good. I don't know that it fits in the Thunderworks brand of gaming, but I don't know that that's a bad thing. High quality components, smooth, easy play. This almost feels like a GMT game or maybe a shorter game, but it gives me that feel of Twilight Struggle, that back and forth tug of war in a much shorter, faster time frame. I'm pretty impressed with this one. That's Dual Powers. Dice Tower Judgment, approved!